Welcome to the SBR Double Play of the Day video, NHL for Saturday, January 11th. I'm Ian Cameron with Adam Booth as we are ready to bring you another Play of the Day video in NHL action, part of what is a big Saturday. It's a big NHL card. I would say it's a great NHL card.
No.
This was picking a Play of the Day from a list of mediocre options in my mind, but we'll get to that in just a second. But in terms of the day ahead, we've got obviously NHL, college basketball is a big card, NBA, and of course NFL divisional playoff football. It's a great Saturday ahead. Looking forward to it. Let's see if we can get another 2-0 sweep. I believe Adam and I got a 2-0 sweep on the board on Thursday with the plays of the day. Let's see if we can deliver another one for you here on this Saturday. Adam has gone to the Chicago Blackhawks tonight in their game as they host the Anaheim Ducks. Right now we've got courtesy of SBRodds.com. Make sure you're using that resource every day to get the best line and price with each wager. Chicago minus 130 to minus 135. Home favorites total 5.5. Shaded to the over, minus 120. This is not a very good Anaheim Ducks right now, clearly. Can't score, can't really keep the puck out of their own net either. Even defensively, this team has had their troubles at times as of late. They lose the other night against the Dallas Stars. Now go on the road, face the Chicago Blackhawks, who they're off back-to-back losses at home themselves, losing to Calgary and Nashville back-to-back games. So this is the bounce-back bowl, I guess you could say, the Ducks and the Blackhawks. Someone's got to snap a skid. Someone's got to win this game. Adam likes one particular side. Adam, go for it.
Yeah, you covered it well. Well, if we look at where these two reside in the standings, it's definitely dire straits for them as we cross the halfway point now. We're like 44, 45 games for most teams, and it's a situation where the Blackhawks and the Ducks have kind of ended up where I think most people would think, maybe within a few points. Maybe they could have done a little bit more to this point, but it's kind of, you'd expect these two to sort of be matched up with this price range for their given form right now. Ducks are off a shutout loss against the best defense in the league. So you do have to take that with a grain of salt, that it's the Dallas Stars who have, been shutting down a lot of teams recently. I mentioned when I was covering them, I think against the Kings game, that in over half, now more than half with these most recent two wins, they have kept opponents to 2 goals or less. And they've only lost one of those games. So they've done a phenomenal job in the style that the coach wants them to play, with the excellent defense they have, with the excellent tandem goaltenders. And this is with Klingberg out too, I think, recently. So full marks to them they weren't outplaying the Ducks significantly, but Anaheim couldn't break it. So if you're not going to score in the league, it's going to be pretty difficult to squeak out a win. And they're facing a Chicago team that, over the last couple games, I mean, if you look at, I signaled it in the article, the Detroit and the Nashville game, that first period in both games, Hawks were not ready to go, especially the Nashville one. If you look at the way the pucks went in, it wasn't just lucky bounces. It was players that are not, Connor McDavid's dipsy-doodling through 3 or 4 Blackhawks guys. I think Yossi did at one time, and I forget who got the second or third one. But it was just, it's like, what are you doing? Wake up. Like, hit the guy. Don't be, poke checking like you're playing NHL 19 and, you hitting R button or L button or whatever it is again and again and missing your poke checks. Take the body, take them off the puck. Play a little bit physical, and maybe you come out with 1 or 2 goal deficit, but 3, that was bad. Now again, if they come out like that against the Ducks today, even for a bad offensive team like the Ducks are, missing Silverberg, I think he's still out. Well, he's day to day, so you never know with that status. He could be upgraded to probable. But again, it's an anemic offense from the Ducks all season long. Their road numbers are not great. They're below league. Below their average, but below league averages. Their last 10 games, they're below their season average for offensive and defensive numbers. And I mentioned that they did have the defensive advantage compared to the Hawks. That was mentioned sort of as a season whole. If you look over the recent stretch, the Ducks have not been that great on the back end either. And so I say, if Chicago plays better than they did in the Nashville game and the Detroit. I mean, they still got the win against Detroit, but and a 2-1 loss against the Flames. If they just play better for 60 minutes, I think they have the advantage and there's value on the line. Now, I took it at minus 140. I could see it, it's come up a little bit to like minus 135 now. I think it's going to be between minus 130 and minus 140. I don't see it. I mean, minus 125 would be significant value, and I might even hit that again. But it should be in this kind of static range of minus 130 to minus 140. And the Ducks are starting a road trip, a 5-game road trip. So I think Getzlaf commented that, this could be a good shakeup for them to just sort of get out of the staleness of, how they've been playing at home. But I don't see the value on the Ducks. And so that's the rationale for, and Lehner, I think, is getting the start today. I thought I heard that. And he's been good. I thought he's been the better of the two goalies. I mean, if he's left out to dry, he's going to be as bad as anybody. But I guess prefer him slightly in the net. So that's how I feel about that one. Did you take a look at this game, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game. I would probably lean towards Chicago as well. I just didn't love the minus 140 price. It's just not for a Chicago team that's just so difficult for them to exert the kind of separation and dominance that's, I think, personally required when you're going to lay at least a moderate price with a particular team. But I certainly trust them a little bit more at home than I do Anaheim on the road. I know Getzlaf's doing the players always say. Really, that's really what they always say when they're struggling, especially on a homestand, and then they're going on the road. On the road.
If they struggle on the road, coming home, it's we'll be better when we get home. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's just it's player speak. It is, and sometimes you buy into it actually making a difference. That truly getting on the road is going to lead to improved play. And they'll focus more, and they'll get away from the distractions. That's usually more the case when you're dealing with a good team in a funk. I'm not sure Anaheim's a good team this year.
It's more to do with
You've got issues all over the ice right now. And you used to be able to rely on Gibson. You used to be able to rely on a defense that was at least going to keep you in some low-scoring games because your defense has taken a step back. It's also had some injuries. Lindholm was out. Manson was out for a while. It's guys that you can't miss on the blue line or can't be without. Yeah. And your offense is not good enough to compensate for all of it.
Yeah. And I was just going to add, it's typical of teams that possess the potential to improve their play and elevate their play. And I did say Chicago could do that because of how I feel their roster is in health and form and stuff like that. But these are two bottom of the standings teams for a reason. It's that they lose games that they should win from time to time. And and Chicago, it's not as though I say, minus 140, for the eye test, that would be value. But as far as probability, it is. So that's my play. But yeah, you've got an interesting one. I didn't expect. I like to sort of have a curiosity about what I think you'll be on as far as totals and stuff. And I didn't have this one circled. So why don't we get into your play?
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. Again, there were a bunch of games that I said, this looks all right. There's nothing that really jumped. Like Edmonton jumped off the page. So I'll be the first one to admit this was a day where there wasn't that really strong, convincing, with strong conviction type of play. It was just, okay, I kind of like this one. I kind of like that one. And you had to choose one of them. And this is the one I went with. I do like it, though. I do think it's the best one that I found on this card, side or totals wise. The one that also got a lot of consideration was the Jersey Washington over 6.5 with the Capitals offense going, the Devils defense back to struggling again, as we saw the other night against the aforementioned Rangers. But I decided this one. The Rangers and the Blues, we've got St. Louis minus 205, 210, total 6 shaded to the over. One thing you can't deny is this New York Rangers team going over the total. This is a crazy run that they are on. 11, 1, and 1 to the over their last 13 hockey games. So it's been a crazy run of overs. And I thought for a minute when Igor Shesterkin, who's now started 2 games in a row for the Rangers, made his NHL debut, the team would buckle down a bit. They'd try to play a little bit more conservative, less run and gun, be more defensive-minded, help out this kid. And this kid's very, very talented. There's no question. But that hasn't happened. They're still playing up and down hockey. They're still very loose in their own end. They really haven't hunkered down for Shesterkin. Now, they have won these last 2 games against Colorado and New Jersey, but they're still giving up goals. The good news is they're scoring a lot of goals. They scored 5 against Colorado, another 5 spot against the Devils the other night in that win. And the offense is rolling. Let's give this Rangers team credit. Their top 2 lines right now, they're all feeling good, got the confidence going, finding the back of the net. Panarin, Strome, and Fost on the second line's been terrific. Kreider, Zibanejad, and Buchnevich, the top line, has been even better. They are just eating up the opposition right now, just feasting with, and the power play has been lethal as of late. Even the third line, we saw Capo Caco score the other night. It's been a really, really bit of a struggle. It's been a grind him in his rookie season, no question. But we've seen him get the offense going a little bit the last couple of games. And this is also a team that's battling a couple of injuries on the blue line. So depth-wise, they're being tested there. Ryan Lindgren's the latest defenseman to go down to injury. Of course, he got in that fight against Colorado with Nazem Kadri, and that's where the injury happened. So he's day-to-day. Again, with these day-to-day injuries, by the way, Adam mentioned one of them in the game he talked about, Chicago-Anaheim. Make sure you're checking the morning skate reports, or at least keeping an eye on the morning skate situations for these players that are day-to-day. There's a chance they're on the ice for the morning skate. And if they're on the ice for the morning skate, doesn't mean for certain they're going to play, but it's looking more likely they will play if they're taking part in the morning skate. So just a piece of advice from an injury standpoint, the morning skate gives you a really, really solid indicator for these players listed as day-to-day. As to whether or not they're actually going to be in the lineup that given night. So the Rangers have been offensively good, but they're still giving up goals. And St. Louis, it's always a question with them. What can you expect from them? Because they can win the 2-1 games just as easily as they can win the 4-3, 5-4, 6-5 games. They could really play either style. Right now, the Blues are scoring. They lit up the Buffalo Sabres the other night, which made Adam very happy, I am sure, in that win against the Buffalo Sabres. Prior to that, they put up 4 spot against San Jose. This team's finding the back of the net right now. And you look at, does intensity at the defensive end drop off in certain situations and certain instances? Like St. Louis is a good defensive team. We know that for the most part. And, of course, Binnington and Al, more than capable goalies. But you start to look at the trends long-term for St. Louis when they step out of the division, when they step outside the conference. The St. Louis Blues have actually cashed overs at a 5-1 clip in their last 6 games against the Eastern Conference, against Eastern Conference teams. So that tells me that when they aren't facing a division rival, when they're not facing a team inside the conference, when those points aren't, when you beat the Rangers and let's say the game goes to overtime, you're lackadaisical a little bit, particularly defensively. You say, okay, we're in a tie with the Rangers, 3-3. It goes to overtime. Well, we don't care that they get a point. They're in the other conference.
Right.
Where you're playing a team in your own division, your own conference, you're trying to keep them from getting any points. Yeah. And I think that you dig in harder a little bit at times defensively. You look at St. Louis's defensive numbers. They're very good overall, but they have a pattern of giving up more goals to teams from the Eastern Conference, especially at home. There's been teams from the East that have put a lot of goals behind them at times. I don't remember the Toronto Maple Leafs went into St. Louis about a month or so ago and put up 5 goals, I believe, on this Blues team. So it just seems like when they step outside of playing Western Conference opponents, this team just, I don't know, that it's not that they fall asleep, but they're not as concerted, from a performance standpoint at the defensive end of the ice. So that could be trouble here for St. Louis against a Ranger team that, as we said, offensively, they're in good form right now, as good a form as you could ask for. So total here is 6. I was really hoping it would be 5.5 with St. Louis involved. I would have liked this total really a lot at that number. But even at 6, minus 112 is what I got it at. I think we'll see some goals. The trends point to it. Certainly the Rangers, 11-1-1 to the over. Their last 13 games, that points to it. St. Louis, 5-1 to the over, last 6 against the East, 7-3 to the over in their last 10 games. So even here at the Scott Trade Center, they've been trending to the over in recent games. So with that in mind, let's go for the play of the day for me with the New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, over 6, minus 112.
Yeah, I like what you laid out there, Ian. It's not one that jumped off at me, just like you mentioned about yourself, but I was looking
Nothing jumped on me today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree what you said in the opening about the card today. It's the prices and the matchups. It's just difficult to get too excited about today's card. So, I mean, and that happens even with 10-game cards. But I was going to say, I was looking at the Rangers team total over 2.5, I think, for plus 100, somewhere in there. And because I do think there's value on a team that is involved in shootouts, and I mean that shootouts is in not overtime shootouts. I mean 4 or 5 goal games for both ways, and the Blues have not been immune. It's not like they're playing like the Stars are right now, where it's very sound defensive hockey for 60 minutes before they think about the counterattack and stuff like that. So yeah, they limited the Sabres to 1 the other night, but Sabres have had some offensive issues right now. I think Eichel is their offense. But the Rangers, different team, different form as far as their goal scoring goes. So I think I'll look at the over as well for this one. If not, I'll be on the Rangers team total over 2.5.
I actually do have a bet as well, not play of the day material, but I do have a small bet on the Rangers here on the money line at that big price, because again they're 2-0 with Shesterkin. They seem like they've galvanized a little bit with this young being called up, being put into the NHL for the first time. You can see the effort's been great. It's still shaky at the back end. Clearly, there's still breakdowns, giveaways, turnovers, and Shesterkin's really had to stand on his head at times. And even then, he still gave up 3 goals in each of the 2 games against Colorado and New Jersey. So, he's great, but he's still got a very shaky blue line in front of him. So he's still probably going to give up 3 goals. And I think Rangers can get 3 goals as well. Both teams can get to 3. In my opinion, in this game tonight, has a good chance of catching. But I do think the Rangers have a chance maybe to steal this one. Again, St. Louis has had some situations where Eastern Conference teams coming into their building have beaten them. Still remember that Toronto game. That's why I mentioned it. They went in there and beat St. Louis 5-2, and it was a really sloppy game defensively, poor game defensively from the Blues, and obviously they went home with the L that night. So, I'm not saying 5-2 Rangers tonight, but I think Rangers could be live tonight. And I do think we see some goals. Yeah,
I have them at 38%. So I'm not looking at the blue side at all. It's Rangers team total over money line and maybe an over 6 if I believe in you enough.
All right.
No, I do. I like what you laid out there, and it'll be over or pass on the total for me as well. All right. So shall we wrap it up?
That's it. Yeah, we got nothing else. And again, that's the stat that clinched it for me. 11, 1, and 1 for over the total in the New York Rangers last 13
right.
Games.
Yeah,
really hard to argue with that. It really is. All right, so our plays of the day for this Saturday, January 11th recap. For Adam, Chicago -140 against Anaheim, and I've got the New York Rangers St. Louis Blues game over 6 -112. We had a 2-0 sweep Thursday. Hopefully another one tonight. That'll wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern, with our next into the SBR NHL double play of the day video. For Adam Booth, I'm Ian Cameron. Have an awesome Saturday. Good luck with all of your wagers across all sports taking place today, and we'll see you again Tuesday right here on the double play.